Hey guys, so this week you're learning about gradients and blends. So I wanted to show you two different things about gradients and blends, and it may or may not go over this in the book, I can't remember. But in the assignment, you're asked to do some really basic gradients, and that's great. Gradients are amazing, I use them all the time, but they are pretty basic, so I wanted to show you a couple of extra things. So stick with me in this video because you will get extra points if you actually do this on your assignment page, like off to the side or on separate artboards. It can still be in the same AI file, but in separate artboards. So let me talk to you real quick about the basic gradient tools. So if I were to add a circle and I were to fill it with a color, there it's a solid flat color. Now if I wanted to add a gradient, I could come over here and I'm going to open up the gradient panel. So I can add a linear, a radial, and a freeform gradient, which is what we call a gradient mesh. We'll talk about that in a second. So linear gradient is going to go in a straight line. So here we have white to black, and I can add as many stops, and I can click on those, and I can change the color of each of those stops. And I'm just double clicking, and this is terrible, but you get where I'm going. And then as I change the stops, I can change how long that gradient has to get from one color to another. So if I make these really clustered together, we're going to see the majority of it is red, and it has a lot of time to go from red to blue. In addition, if you slide these diamonds, you can say I want less red and more blue, or more red and less blue. So this is a great way to make sunsets. You can also change the angle, so I can go to 90 and make that a little bit better. All right. So if I wanted to do a radial gradient, then that's going to come from the center out in a radial or a circle formation. So if I wanted to delete some colors, if I wanted to delete this cool blue, I can delete that out by just dragging it off. And again, clicking and then double clicking to get new stops and choose different colors. You can color pick with these, which is a new thing, and I'm so glad that happened. Or you could do your CMYK sliders or choose from this grid here. All right, so those are basic gradients, but there are really powerful tools in Illustrator to try to make your illustrations look more lifelike, and those are blend modes and gradient mesh. So I'm going to minimize this right here, and on your assignment, remember, if you want new artboards for the extra credit, you get extra credit if you do a blend and extra credit if you do a gradient mesh. You get extra credit if you also create your own idea. So like if I make an egg with a blend and you want to make something else with a blend, do it, and then that will give you even more points. So again, I can create these artboards, but just for the sake of this tutorial video, I want to zoom in on this one. All right, so let's say I wanted to make an egg. Well, I'm going to make an egg by drawing it out here, and I'm probably going to make an oval. And I'm just going to change this to a lighter tan color, which eggs don't really look like, but here we go, okay? And I'm going to adjust these, pull these handles in at the top, and I'm going to pull these handles in on the side just a little bit, just the top, so it gets that kind of down slope. And at the bottom, I'm slightly going to pull out the base. And this is giving us a little bit better of an egg shape. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the ellipse tool, and I'm going to make this a lighter shade. So I'm actually going to open up the color panel. I hate not having the color panel open. Okay, so I can come up here and I'm going to make it a lighter shade and click OK. And now remember, with the shape builder tool, we can select those and we can go to shape builder. And I'm going to get rid of that guy. Nope, I meant to get rid of you. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that guy. Now, and both of these I actually don't want a stroke on, so I'm going to come over here and say no stroke. All right, so this gives us two shapes. That's adding some highlight. And then I can add a little circle up here for where like the highlight is going to hit the most. And I'm going to make that pretty much almost white. So I'll go and do that. All right, so here's blend, okay? So blend is going to allow a smooth transition of colors from this one to this one, and then from this one to this one. And you do that by highlighting all these shapes, and we're going to go to Object, Blend, and then we're actually going to change, we're going to go to blend options first to make sure. Okay, yes, so you want it on smooth color. Specified steps is when maybe you want 8 pieces in between, you can do that. So like if you're making a picket fence and you have the tall post and then the second tall post and you want 6 more smaller posts in between, then you can choose that specified steps. And then specified distance, if you want them all to appear like 5 centimeters apart, then you can choose that. But I'm going to go ahead and just do smooth color and click OK. And now I'm going to go to Object, Blend, and Make. So now all of a sudden, instead of having a boring radial gradient, you actually have a gradient that makes it look like an egg. So I can change this if I need to in the future. I can change the colors, or I can release it from its blend object, blend. I can do expand, I can release, I can reverse it, so you can play with those options. But there is your first, if you do this egg exactly, then you'll get some bonus points. If instead you do a blend that you played with the steps or the distance, look up tutorial videos, then you would get even more bonus points. Okay, so next is a gradient mesh. So let's pretend I wanted to make a mountain range. I'm just going to come over here and I am going to make literally the world's stupidest mountain range. Let's make one a little bit higher. This is like a hill range. Okay, so we all know with mountains, and then I'm just going to create the base here. We all know with mountains, if the sun is shining over here, then this part's going to be light green, this part's going to be light green, and this part, but then this side of the hill is going to be dark green, this side of the hill is going to be dark, and this side of the hill is going to be dark, okay? So if I were to fill it with green, looks more like hills, but still not that great. If I were to fill it with a linear gradient, and let's say I did that, okay, it looks a little bit better. And maybe if I do 90, maybe that looks even better, but we can do better. So how can we do better? We can do it by creating an object here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Object and what the heck? Create Gradient Mesh. So you can either create a gradient mesh on something that already has color, or it doesn't have to have color. And actually I should probably describe something first. When you do a gradient mesh, I'm just going to do a flat filled circle in here. I don't want a gradient. I don't want a gradient. Stop the gradient. Stop the gradient. Oh my god. I just want it to be a flat color. Okay. So when you go to Object, let me click off. Cancel. Select it. Object. Create Gradient Mesh. So now, do you see how it says 4 rows, 4 columns, appearance to the edge, and then highlight? These are all the different, so like I have 4 rows, I have 4 columns, and then I want it to go to the center, so that's going to take the color and then white to the center, and then I can choose to change my highlight. If I do like 15, you can see that it doesn't get very big. So I'm going to go ahead and do 80 and then click OK. So what a gradient mesh does is it allows you to change the color of each of the anchor points. So if I come in here and choose this center anchor point, and I change this center anchor point to blue, what it's going to do is it's going to say I need to go from blue to red from here to here. If I were to change this one and make it green or pink, well, we'll do green so we can see it. What it's going to say is I need to go from green to red here, and this is red to blue here, and blue to red here, and red to green here. So that's where you're seeing that really smooth color. So if I were to come and let's say select all these and change them to orange, or yeah, let's just do blue. There you can see it's selecting all those anchor points and then it's fading it. So this is how we can create smooth color, and we can make it weirdly shaped. In addition, I can move these points around just like I could before. You can see it's starting to change how that color works with it. And I can move whole sections. So I can make a weirdly shaped planet or whatever the case may be. And so that's basically how a gradient mesh works. So in my experience, it's always best to start with something. So again, You can make these hills if you want to. This is really, really good when you make clouds, because if you just do puffy clouds and then highlight all the anchors at the bottom, you can make those like orange so they look like the sunset is reflecting off the bottom of the clouds. It's really cool to do it that way. So if you want to do something a little bit different than the hills, then you'll get even more bonus points. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to come over here, and there is a gradient mesh tool in here, if I could find it. Mesh tool, there we go. Here's your mesh tool. So with that mesh tool selected, stop that. All right, with that mesh tool selected, you can choose where your mesh points will be. So if I wanted this to have all these mesh points right here, and then if I wanted these to be mesh points, and then I wanted these to be mesh points, what I'm going to do is I can then highlight all those mesh points, and I can make those a light green. So let's just do this light green. And then I can highlight. So those are kind of like unnaturally perfect. So it's not going to look as great as it could. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make those all light green as well. Okay. But as you can see, because I created these ones, there's no dark green on this side. So that's where I can come in and I can start creating mesh points down here. And I can highlight these. And now I can make those dark green. So then I can come over here and make all these dark green. And then again, see how all these need some mesh points, or like these ones weren't created. So I might need to highlight those and make those light green. All right, so again, I'm going to add some mesh points over here. All right, all of those I'm going to make dark green. No, I highlighted the whole thing. All right, there we go. Remember, the direct selection tool is your friend. So make those dark green. So then what color would this be? You'd have to decide if it's like in the middle or if that's going to be the lightest green. So we'll come over here. And now you can see that we're starting to get really what looks like rolling hills. So now I just have to come in and figure out, okay, these bottom mesh points, what colors should they be? Should they be the exact same green, or should they be a little bit lighter? And then these ones that are really down below, should those even be that dark green, or should they go even darker? So that's totally up to you. But this is how you create that nice transition of rolling hills. So anyway, like I said, see how this one comes down? You can actually have it look like, you know, if you put mesh points right here and all of a sudden these ones are white and these ones are dark green, so it looked like the hill took a turn or whatever. So you can mess with those and then after the fact start adjusting the anchor point. So I wanted you to just have a chance to do a little bit more sophisticated color than what the assignment gave you and earn some bonus points with it. If you have any questions, let me know.